We are now 1 year into the presidency of Donald Trump, and it's a good time to go back and look at what his accomplishments are, what he's done over that past year. Because he came into office with great bombast. He came in saying, oh, he's going to completely change the system, pull out of Nafta. He was going to renew infrastructure spending, even though it was considered communist when Obama suggested it, etc. And he came in as the alt-right's version of Obama. Oh, it's going to change this time. If we just vote for this kind of political outsider, then everything's going to change. Everything's going to be different. And that's what it is. This was the hope and change of the right. That's exactly what Donald Trump represented in his whole persona, his whole political campaign. And to be totally honest, he came in, he has been nothing but a gigantic political embarrassment. His Twitter rants have been borderline insane. He has acted in ways that are unbecoming a head of state. That, even a general professionalism, this would not be considered acceptable in the corporate world. He has completely acted in an anti-diplomatic way. He has insulted people right and left. People have snubbed him because they don't want to deal with him. The president of Japan, his wife pretended not to speak English so that she wouldn't have to talk to him. Leaders across the globe have zero respect for the guy because of the way that he behaves and the scorn that is heaped upon him. He deserves it. His whole persona is just so completely unacceptable for someone sitting in office. It's just unbelievable. Now, one of the big things that Trump ran on was the promise to make America great again. Now, while that is a relatively vague statement, he specifically focused on areas of the economy to bring the jobs back, to make the country great again, to do a great deal of infrastructure spending. And as we saw, that infrastructure spending wasn't done. In fact, it's not even on the table in his proposed budget, which is currently under debate right now with the government shutdown. The only kind of government spending he actually wants is on the military and building his border wall, which is another issue altogether, but we'll talk about that in a minute. But in fairness to him, the economy is up 3%. Wages are going up. Wall Street is doing great. The unemployment rate went from 4.8% to 4.1%. But unfortunately, he really can't take credit for any of that. That's part of a general global trend that has been coming on since, 2010. This has been part of that recovery from the Great Recession. Although we're not there yet, there has been some part of a recovery. And that's been global in general. So this is nothing that you can rightly attribute to him. This is not something that he did. So he can't really take credit for that. And among the things that we didn't see him do was the import tariffs on Chinese and Mexican goods. That was something that he promised, something he worked very hard on in his campaign. Oh, he's going to teach those Chinese a lesson. He's going to make Mexicans pay for the wall by putting the import tariffs on them to force people to buy American again, completely ignoring the fact that you have to ship labor overseas in order for it to be competitive. That's just a law of capitalism itself. It's not something that greedy corporations just decided to do one day. They didn't just decide, hey, we should send this overseas because F the American people. That's certainly not what happened. In an economy of competition, whoever produces the most cheaply is going to win overall because they can sell for less. I mean, that's basic economics. There's no real need for me to go in on that. But that's to say that labor is outsourced to other countries, not because they want to, but because they have to. If one capitalist does it, the rest of them have to do it. So we never got those import tariffs that were going to teach the Chinese and the Mexicans a lesson. Now, one of the other big things that Trump said he was going to do was pull out of Nafta. He was going to pull out. It was the worst deal ever signed. It was destroying the American people. It was going to destroy the economy. And so far, it looks like he's not going to do it. I mean, a lot of countries were very nervous that given the very bold way that he acts without really thinking first, that he might actually do it. Markets got hit by that a little bit. But essentially, despite the nervousness of Mexico and even Canada, this didn't come through. I mean, Trump didn't pull out of NAFTA, and that was one of the big things that he said that he was going to do. And the markets are actually pretty happy about that, because that would have hurt a lot of U.S. businesses. Not that I particularly want to defend NAFTA, but to point out the fact that he didn't do it when he said he was going to. Well, the one thing he did manage to get done was the tax cuts. And that was the one big thing, one of the big things that he wanted to focus on, was cutting the terrible tax burden on the rich people who are plundering the economy while leaving everybody else high and dry. So, but he did manage to get that. Although he didn't get what he wanted to, he had to negotiate somewhat with the Democrats in order to get some kind of tax cut pushed through. Because, of course, the Democrats represent the ruling class just as the Republicans do, just in a different form. And some of them seem to have a little bit more sense. Donald Trump wanted a 21% cut in corporate taxes. But upon negotiations with the Democrats, as I said, he only managed to get 15%. Now, the area where he really did what he said he was going to do was cut regulation. Now, we got the end of net neutrality. That's something that he wanted to do, and now corporations have that kind of overwhelming power, and that's an issue that's still going to be dealt with in the future. There are several states lining up to cooperate on a lawsuit against the FCC for this, to try to retain net neutrality after all, because this does kind of hurt states and states' rights kind of thing. So he got that. And the deregulation of basically everything else in the economy, especially environmental protections, just went completely down the toilet. He destroyed everything. Just about every government office there is, he hired the exact opposite person that you should have. If they were against the existence of public education, he put them in charge of the Secretary of Education. If you completely hate the working class and want them to die, well, he put them as the Department of Labor. So he did exactly what he said he was going to do there. He cut the regulations on just about everything, and you can look forward to the United States returning to some kind of, or becoming some kind of like toxic hellhole as a result of this. Just wait for more oil spills and stuff like that. Just Scott Pruitt, number one. He was the guy that he put on for the environment, and he has gutted that thing like no tomorrow. I mean, the amount of environmental damage that's coming is absolutely unbelievable. And the whole overtime pay issue, you can basically kiss that goodbye. This was something that was being contested very much in the public sphere, and just say goodbye to that. So Trump just killed overtime pay in that issue. But one of the big things is the wall between the United States and Mexico. And this is an issue that's not going away. Many people hoped that once he got in office and had to deal with the reality of the political sphere that is Washington, to deal with the real job and how you have to function, pleasing more than one side, that he would eventually just give it up. Realize that it's something that just cannot be done. But yet, he seems absolutely insistent upon making that a thing that comes true. And that's the thing that he is demanding from Congress. He demands it from the Democrats to get the money necessary to build that goddamn wall. But, as we can see, that's led to a government shutdown, although that's not the total reason for the government shutdown. But that is a thing that Democrats really don't want to pay for, because it's an absolutely monumental waste of money that should never have ever seen the light of day. But as we've seen with the few test walls that have been put up, it's something that he's really going to push. This is going to be this is in his mind, this is going to be his legacy as the president. He will be remembered forever as the president who kept the Mexicans out. Now, history is going to remember him quite differently than what he thinks he's going to be remembered for, as the great xenophobe rather than the great savior. But, you might not want to get tangled up in, Trump's emotions. It can be a really ugly thing. But one of the most interesting things of all is the overwhelming information that's come out of the White House about how everything is running. And that it seems like the White House is largely on cruise control without Donald Trump's leadership. In fact, it seems very much that he's not really in control at all. He has whims that come up every now and then, and they sometimes get passed, sometimes they don't. But it seems definite from a lot of the information that's coming, and not just fire and fury, but from people who have spoken about how the White House is going. And Trump's not really in charge. That much of the so-called deep state is actually running things and keeping them the way they are. But this is kind of what a lot of people really expected would come out of Donald Trump. This is the way that he was going to run things. I'm going to do whatever I want, and I don't care. I'm the great deal maker. And you've got, frankly, a complete shit show. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's running around doing just whatever he wants, declaring Jerusalem, Al-Quds, to be the capital of Israel, what is an outright, frankly, an act of war against not only Muslims, but Palestinians specifically. Absolutely no diplomatic flair whatsoever. He does not think before he acts. And someone like that is frankly dangerous. Now, he is also the president that has authorized attacks on Russian assets inside of Syria, and even attacked the Syrian government itself. So, if this is any indication of what the next 3 years are going to be like, then I would suggest that the American people perhaps begin reinvesting in underground bunkers. Not just for a possible nuclear war with the DPRK, but with the environment, but with the economy, and frankly, even just outright basic human decency. Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.